Boundaries, humility, and self-respect. These are all major things which run deeply throughout all of our relationships. So what we're going to do in this video is take a look at a few of examples as far as how we can easily disregard the importance of these concepts, and then also look at what we can do to shift that so we can have more harmonious and fruitful relationships. So the first example of sort of disregarding boundaries, disregarding humility, disregarding self-respect would be the really common trend and trait of just overlaying your experiences on another person's experience and assuming that it's the same. So for example, you might say to someone, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm starting a new relationship. I'm going on a date. I'm starting a business. I'm going to this place. And they automatically start in with their story of, oh yeah, I went there once and it was like this and it was like that and you're going to do this and you have to watch out for that. And they just start giving you all this stuff which probably you didn't ask for. And what that's doing is assuming and sort of first and foremost disrespecting your own uniqueness and your own boundaries. Also, it's necessarily disrespecting their own uniqueness in their own sense of boundaries, so it's a mutual sort of disrespect and ignorance. And this also serves to limit the experience by making it fit into their experience and into their pre-molded box. So you have this experience which is this big potentiality, you know, of newness and uniqueness and all of that. And what they do is they say, oh, you gotta watch out for this, and you're gonna have to do this, and I did this, and this failed, and this succeeded, blah, blah, blah. So they just take all of your potentiality and say, oh, actually it's just this, don't worry about it. And if you're someone who's been on the other end of that, you know it really doesn't feel good, and you know if you've ever done it to someone, it really doesn't feel good either, on both ends. So another thing to take into account on this idea is that the obvious fact is that two different people, two different life experiences. So obviously, a new event, a new experience, a new opportunity is going to yield a different experience as well. And I think it's time for all of us to grow up and realize that our experience is our experience. Our map of reality is our map of reality, and just that. It doesn't mean that everyone else is going to have the same experience, or everyone should have the same experience, or the same map. It just means that we actually realize and respect ourselves and respect our boundaries and be humble enough to realize that, yeah, this is my experience, this is what came before it and shaped it, and this is where it's at now. Now, if someone asks you, you know, hey, what do you think about this? That's one thing. But it's a little different to just start having verbal diarrhea on someone when they haven't even really asked for it. Second is that if we really want to expand and harmonize as a person, we need to stop trying to make everything fit into our preconceived black and white dualistic boxes. Because if we want something we've never had, it's going to require thinking in ways we've never thought, doing things we've never done. So if we continually are so lazy and ignorant that we make everything fit into our preconceived boxes, what do you think we're going to get? More of the same. Thus, we're not really going to be able to expand, and we're not really going to be able to harmonize. And this is something that I deal with a lot personally as someone who puts out ideas through video, and I just notice frequently people just take, you know, maybe I took 5 to 10 minutes to explain this idea in a different way, and they sort of just dumb it down and sum it up in some sort of cliche quote or some sort of preconceived notion or box. And it's like, oh, this is just like what you're saying, or this is just it. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying, because if that were what I'm saying, then that's what I would have said. So there's a couple things that tie into that. Number one is you can't miss what you never had. If you haven't had certain experiences which lead to certain conclusions, which open certain neural pathways in your brain, then you're not viscerally and tangibly going to be able to relate. Also, we're each only able to perceive things at the level that we're currently at. So we might read a book, for example, and the first time we read it, we take away one interpretation. Let's say we go back and read that book a couple years later, a couple months later. We have an entirely different interpretation. We understand it much more deeply and richly and thoroughly. So for example, if someone is explaining something at this level, let's say this level up here, they're explaining something, but you know the person listening might be down here, they can't actually see it. They might be able to see a little bit of this or just a little bit of this, but they don't actually see what's really being communicated. It takes time. And that's the whole idea of planting seeds or, thinking differently, because eventually that stuff, trickles up and flowers and blossoms into new things. So that's just sort of a personal side note and tangent which I wanted to throw in there. The second example on our topic of boundaries, humility, and self-respect is attempting to get someone to do something else, attempting to get someone else to do something for your own benefit by sort of encouraging them to do it like it's good for them. And this is sort of a really common thing. People call you up and say, hey man, are you going to this place? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And in reality, it's for their own benefit. They need something from you, or they want you to do certain things for them. So it's not really for you, it's for them, basically. But they're not being upfront about that. They're trying to act like it's good for you, like it's your idea, which inherently is massively disrespectful to both parties, because when you're not upfront about your intentions, you're basically implying that, number one, they're either too dumb to notice, or you're too manipulative to be noticed. And neither of those options is actually attractive or flattering in any way, shape, or form. So then what can we do about that? Number one, respect ourselves and the other person enough to be upfront and clear about our intentions. And the more clear and direct you are with others, the more clear and direct they'll be with you. The more clear and direct you get with yourself, the more clear and direct you'll communicate, and the more you'll get back. And you might think, oh, well, that's scary, or that's hard, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. You know what? You just start small and you build up. You start with little things and it just grows. And if there's people in your life that can't handle it, sorry. I mean, the easy way to understand is if you're not being you, and you're inherently lying, number one, so you're disrespecting yourself and them, and what they're liking and the person they're relating to isn't even authentically you. So, in a sense, when you be more you and people can't handle it, they're actually doing you a favor, because they're making room for more people who can and will resonate and relate to you more when you're being more authentic, more clear, and more direct. The second thing is to embrace and acknowledge reciprocity, and realize that relationships should be like the sideways 8. So let's say you have number 8, it's up here, turn it sideways, and it becomes the infinity symbol, which is these two connected circles. And this symbolizes the channel in relationships through which energy constantly flows back and forth. Now, let's say you have relationships in your life that aren't flowing like that. Maybe it's time to make some changes. Maybe it's time to reprioritize your time, energy, and attention and focus your attention elsewhere, or create space so you can attract more people which will actually embrace reciprocity and create this open channel of love, nourishment, attention, energy, acceptance, etc., which should flow through that channel. And let's say maybe you're in a relationship now. Think about how this can apply and acknowledge and embrace reciprocity and realize that it's an exchange, it's relationship. So those are two examples of how we can sort of disregard and disrespect humility and self-respect, and how we can sort of shift that, at least from these two examples, and help to embrace these concepts more, create more harmony, more fruitful relationships, so that we can just be more of who we are and allow others to do the same. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I will talk to you soon.